I'm walking through the area that Con Before the Storm is about to have at their event, and I hear my name being called. This man walks up to me and he says, "Hi, Jules, I'm Navarre." And I started to cry because it was just like this incredible feeling. He said in my ear when he hugged me, he said, "You saved my life."
What is up, party people, and welcome to another episode of Esports and Content Creators. This week is episode 6. I'm your host, and my name is Chillrogg. If this is your first time here, Esports and Content Creators is a show about the people behind the gaming industry. Each week, we invite a creator or esports professional and discuss with them what inspired them to get started, where they are in their career now, and their vision for the future of gaming. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Sidkitten. Sidkitten, what's up?
Hey guys, nice to be here.
So we're also very fortunate to be joined by Jules Scott. Jules Scott is an amazing presence in the gaming world. Jules was the host of one of my favorite podcasts growing up, Tauren Think Tank, a massive World of Warcraft podcast. Jules is the commissioner of the HeroesCCL right now, the largest league in Heroes of the Storm. And Jules is a podcasting giant. She's involved in many of their podcasting projects, including Convert to Raid, one of the largest World of Warcraft podcasts out there, Battle.net Sports, Nerf This, and many more. Oh, and her new podcast, Personal Experience. Jules, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. It's really cool to be here and to talk to you about podcasting, because you know what? These days I don't get to talk about it as much as I used to because I'm so involved in esports, but it is like the thing that has gotten me to where I am today. So thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, so I guess to start it off, I think it all started for you in World of Warcraft, but just to not answer my own question, where did it all start for you? How did you get into gaming in the first place?
You're right. Well, I was a gamer as a kid for most of like my younger years, and so I'm going to date myself a little bit, but my parents bought an Atari when I was little, and it was the thing that I just absolutely loved it. I had it. Eventually, that Atari ended up in my room, and I would just play hours and hours of like Pitfall and Pac-Man and Indiana Jones and the dreaded E.T. game, which was horrible. And but I don't really remember what happened as like I was getting older, but there was like gaming had kind of exited my life. We never got a Nintendo when I was little. I would have to play at my friends' houses, and that was kind of a bummer. And I think that, you know, as being a girl, my parents didn't really want to have that encouragement of maybe doing as much gaming, and they wanted to encourage me to do other things. And so I drifted out of gaming for most of my teen years and into most of my 20s. I played like certain games like Myst and Tomb Raider and things like that on the PC. But it wasn't like, I wasn't identifying as a gamer at that time. And it wasn't until I met someone who was like, it kind of brought me into the world of what was like to play an MMO. And that my first MMO was City of Heroes.
Oh.
And I was just blown away. I'm like, wait a minute. You pay $15 a month to play a game? And they're like, no, it's not what it is. It's not. It's not. That's not how it's supposed to be. Or like trying to explain to me what it was. And that's when I understood the world of role playing and how to get into being this character. So I became my scrapper in City of Heroes, who was like this orphaned superhero with a wild streak, and it was great. I had these friends that we would role play with, but City of Heroes had this cap where it was like you get to level 40 and there was nothing to do. It was just like the game just hit a wall and you were like, shit, what am I gonna do? And that was when I was introduced to World of Warcraft. And I was like, I'm not really into fantasy. I'm not really into this stuff. It's not really the thing I want to do. I had no basis. I had no background. But I was encouraged. So my ex-husband bought me a copy of World of Warcraft in 2006 for my birthday. And it was 3 months before Burning Crusade was supposed to come out. He's like, you should try this. And so my very first character, I rolled a human priest. And I ran around. I was running around Stormwind. I got up to the gates of Stormwind and went, nope. I just ran.
You got scared.
I was so afraid.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Because I was overwhelmed. This was really just an experience that I didn't understand. But I kind of kept at it, and eventually rolled a night elf rogue, and didn't understand what I was doing. I was like, I didn't even know how to pilot the character really well. Fell off the world in Kalimdor. Fell off the world tree.
There was that glitch, right?
Yep.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
I mean, I managed to do it all. So, but eventually it just became an obsession. And at that point, I was starting to think about, like, learning about the game, and people were telling me there's this thing called podcasts that were out there, and I was like, what the hell is a podcast? Started listening to shows like The Instance, and started to listen. There were a couple of other like rating podcasts that were out there, and I was like, I don't understand what rating is, but I'll start listening to it. And that's where it all began. That's like the core of like World of Warcraft for me. I played World of Warcraft for 12 years before I finally stopped.
Wow.
And in 2012 is when I started to do my first podcast, which was around World of Warcraft. I had a friend who, it was probably like because it was before Pandaria.
Okay.
Because I remember my first co-host Rem and I were like, after we were made the show, we were like, I remember sitting in a work meeting one time, and when Pandaria was being announced, and I was in a restaurant in a work meeting, and he's texting me going, there's pandas, Jules, there's pandas.
Oh my god.
It was like, because I think it was being revealed during BlizzCon or something, and I wasn't there. And anyway, so the idea of the show came from me knowing Rem, who was my former first co-host of Tauren Think Tank. We raided on the same team together, and we had a situation where we had this guild. The group wasn't really getting along with the guild leader and a couple of other people, and there was a bit of drama, and there was an exodus and a forming of our own guild. And we were like, he had just gotten a new iPhone, like first iPhone he'd ever gotten, and he was like, what do I do with this thing? And I said, you need to listen to podcasts. He's like, what's a podcast? Like same thing I did, like, what's a podcast? And he started listening to podcasts for WoW, and he was like, we could do this. We could totally do this. And he's like, let's make a podcast. And I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? Like, I'm in. Let's do it. And we took the basis of kind of our guild drama and the things that we had. I was like, well, what if we tried to help other people that had the same kinds of things with their interpersonal relationships within their guild that we could help them with? And we like gave advice to people from our own experiences. And that's how Tauren Think Tank was born.
That is really awesome to hear it start to finish. So many questions pop into my head for that.
Yeah, ask away.
So I guess that story of like guild drama, that's so familiar to me.
Yeah.
Like every kind of guild I was part of, it was just like, oh, if somebody like says something or so, okay, there's a divide and there's all this like he said, she said. So that was a big part of Tauren Think Tank, like for the start of it.
It was like, so that was our intention, right? It was supposed to be talking to people about their interactions with people in a gaming space. And very early on, we started getting questions from people that were like, my girlfriend doesn't like that I play WoW, and I want to try to figure out how to make my relationship better. One of the very early questions that we received was about social anxiety, talking on voice chat. We received a letter from someone who was transgender who was afraid to talk on voice chat because with their raid team, because they hadn't come out to their raid team and were afraid that they would be discriminated against. And it just morphed into this incredible situation of like, it wasn't just about guild drama. It was about the experiences that we as gamers deal with from, and it was everything: social anxiety, divorce, relationships, LGBT issues. I had a guest on the show who has PTSD from the military. It was like it took a turn that I never expected. And I remember when I first started doing the show, my ex-husband at the time had said to me, how are you going to get these people to write to you? How are you going to get your topics? And I'm like, they're just going to come. It was this, like, there was no, like, a no-brainer to me that this would happen. And it did, but it happened in a way that I had not planned for. And it was so cool. The issue came down to, like, I was very much into this whole, like, we're here to help and inspire and assist people and make life better and entertain people. Rem was much more on the side of, let's entertain people. He wanted to be the next Howard Stern. And, when you take that mentality versus the one where it's like, let's inspire and help people and change their lives for the better, it caused a major rift. So, yeah. There's an incredible story of something that happened from Tauren Think Tank that I will never forget in my life. There was a guy who was part of. Are you familiar with the instance and the guild that they have? AIE. Yeah. So there was a guy who, his name was Navarre Impossible, and Navarre was writing to the show in the early days and telling us about this really tough time that he was having in his life. He was depressed. His wife was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and she left him, and he had nothing. And he was writing to tell us that the show was helping him get through some of his darkest days. I just had to come forth to him every time and just say, look, we believe in you. We know that you're going to be okay. We're not experts, but we're here to just help you and support you. And it got worse for him. At one point, he was sleeping on other people's couches, and he was having a really difficult time. But he kept writing, and he kept saying, all these things that, thank you, Tauren Think Tank, for being here for me. You have sometimes helped me still be here. And I was just like, wow, this is huge. This is like, and kind of maybe a little bit intimidating, but at the same time, I was really glad that he was still okay. And fast forward a year or so later to BlizzCon. I want to say it was like BlizzCon 2015. I'm walking through the area that Con Before the Storm is about to have at their event, and I hear my name being called. And this man walks up to me and he says, "Hi, Jules, I'm Navarre." And
that's so cool.
And he brings the woman. He says, "This is my girlfriend, Stephanie." And he said, "I met her, and our lives have been really, really happy, and things are going so well." And he hugged me, and I started to cry because it was just like this incredible feeling. Navarre and Stephanie live here in Minneapolis and have been my friends for several years now.
Wow.
We've hung out, we've had dinners together, we've gone, we've gone places together here. And he said in my ear when he hugged me, he said, "You saved my life."
Wow.
And yeah, like that'll get me every time, but it's just like,
that is so powerful. Oh my God.
It is incredible.
From something that started from guild drama to that's
right. And I will never in my life forget that moment, because it was like, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. I'm supposed to be here to help people. And that was just like, wow. Sorry. This one always gets me. Yep. This one always gets me.
That is an amazing story.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So you mentioned you stopped playing World of Warcraft a while back. So do you not play at all anymore?
I don't. I think I stopped playing right around the time when HGC was canceled. So around 2018 or so. So it's been a couple years. Mm-hmm. It was a good run. Because not only was I doing my own show, but I was also eventually running the guild for the Convert to Raid podcast. When when they announced that they were going to make a guild, they thought they were going to get a couple hundred people, and it wound up being over 7,000 people.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember because it was the Alliance counterpart to AIE. And everybody was like, okay, we're going Alliance. And there was this big controversy.
Yeah, there was, well, because they were part of AIE at the time. Like, they had been in AIE and they wanted to make their own thing. And so they decided to go Alliance so that it wouldn't compete with the AIE guild because they were Horde. Yeah, there was like it was like this drama. And I remember like talking to some of the members of like the AIE leadership council. And I'm like, you do realize like nobody wanted to like cause any problem, anything. It was just like, we just wanted to make sure that we didn't cause any drama. Like
It's
by
so
like
hard
going
with guilds.
It is, because everybody kind of assumes things without really having the conversation. And I was the one that had that conversation with those folks. And when, so let me back up a little bit. Like being a part of that whole guild process was like, I was there from the beginning because I was friends with Pat Krane and his crew. And he was telling me his plans of thinking about making his own guild. And he's like, I'd like you to help me out with this. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay. And so, they created the guild on Airy Peak, and, it was like they did not expect that they were going to have thousands of people who wanted to join this guild, and they were not prepared for what was about to happen. They were not prepared, as Lyndon very well says. And, so it was a mad dash to create procedure and how you make. There were 10 co-guilds that were made for Convert to Raid with a connection add-on called Greenwall that allowed them all to talk to each other like they were all in the same guild chat.
As you're saying this stuff, like memory flashbacks of this is coming to me from like my college days, like whatever years ago.
You're making me feel old.
It's not my intention.
No, I know. Yeah. But I mean, that was like 2014 or something. It's been a while. It's been quite a few years now.
Coltrane and the guy who played a hunter. Solar Flare.
Yeah. Solar Flare he is like one of the coolest dudes now. Every time I see him at BlizzCon, I get a huge hug. He's a sweet guy. And he kind of grew up on that show. He was like a high school kid when he first started, and then went into college, and so he grew up on Convert to Raid, which was on that cool. Show. And then Darius came in after he left. So yeah. So all those guys were friends of mine, and we built the guild together, and eventually created different departments for different roles, because there were so many raid teams that we needed some kind of leadership for the number of raid teams that were going on. Because the philosophy was like, the guild was not going to run the raid teams. The raid leaders of those teams must lead their teams, but there needed to be somebody in charge to like help them if they had issues, or like one of their members decided to go on a racist rant in guild chat or something.
Oh, God. 10,000 members. That stuff probably like happened once in a while, huh?
Yeah, so like there was a day where it was actually Christmas. It was like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and this guy who had not really had any issues at all just started going off in guild chat, like really rude, racist stuff, terrible things, and I had to ban him. I had to ban him from the guild, and I was like, what the hell happened with this guy? And as it turned out, he was a veteran who had really tough times over Christmas, and he was drinking a lot, and just kind of lost his shit, and you just learn about like, okay, who's actually who has a bad streak versus like they made a mistake. And so I've had it all. You see it all. It's just part of the whole deal. There were some real bad apples that you had to weed out, and there were some that were just like, sometimes they just had a bad day.
So why haven't you played as much WoW these days, or since then?
So I kind of burnt out. I mean, 12 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And I, at the time when I had Convert to Raid actually became my job, my paying job, because I started working for Pat Krane in 2016. And I was eventually brought to I was like the guild master. That was me. I was the one in charge of everything. And when 2 years after I was hired, Pat made some decisions to change, how he was doing his business, and decided to close it and move to California. And I was just, it was pretty rough on me. I didn't have that work anymore. I wasn't, our friendship had been in shambles, and I was like, I think it's time. I think it's time to be done. At that point, I was very much focused on Heroes of the Storm and the community, because I had started working, doing shows and things like that related to Heroes, and I was much more interested in the MOBA community than I was in the MMO community. And I got tired. I got tired of grinding it out to be ready for raids. I got tired of reputation grinds. I got tired of
Valor points. And
and I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. And I haven't gone back. And it's like, I've thought about it in a couple expansions where it's like, well, is it time? No, it's not time. I've played some Final Fantasy 14, and it was fun. It was still the same kinds of like grind things that I didn't want to do anymore. Excuse me. So I just was like, no, I think I'm done. So that's why
I couldn't. Oh yeah, sorry. I couldn't agree with you more. That's like the number one reason why I can't bring myself to go back to WoW. Like, it's 2021. We just want to go in and like have the fun experience like now.
Yeah.
We don't want to grind 10 hours of dailies and then have fun, or like do Valor points and then have fun. Like MOBA, you just log in, you press ready, and it's like immediate fun.
Yeah. It's, and for me, like, I used to play WoW like 8 hours, 9 hours a day on a weekend. Like, that would be my day. I would just get up, we'd have breakfast, you'd just sit down, do your dailies, go run some dungeons. Like, that was your thing. And I don't know, maybe I just outgrew it, or it just wasn't like the focus of what I wanted. But I also remember back then when I was doing that, there wasn't this like wealth of games, other games that could be really kind of pulling my attention either. It's changed a lot since then, where I was like, well, nothing is more important to me than WoW. Well, now it is not. That's not so much the case, when there's amazing games out there that I could play, and I feel bad. Like, when I was a huge Mass Effect fan, and anytime Mass Effect came out, I would be like, don't talk to me in WoW for like a month, because I'm going to be playing Mass Effect. And they're all like, well, you've betrayed us. You've left us. What is going on? And I didn't want to feel like that anymore. I wanted to be able to play the games that I wanted to play when I wanted to play them.
Yeah. There was that whole push against having offline mode in Blizzard games for so long. I feel like that was necessary too.
Yeah.
You just relax and just play Diablo or something different and not have to be guilted.
But they'd find you on your friends list, and they'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you playing Diablo? Don't you want to run dungeons? Like, no. I am running dungeons. I'm doing one by myself.
That would happen to me so much, where I would just like, all right, I'm not playing Hearthstone casually anymore. I'm just going to go outside or something if I want to break from Blizzard. Yeah.
So if there was something you could change about WoW today to make that experience more enjoyable, what would you change?
No reputation grinds ever again.
Amen.
Ever. I hate it. And I understand why it's there. I understand the replayability of it, and, keeping people coming back and working towards goals. But my dopamine hits were always about the loot drops, the things that I could get from, like when you're running raids and you're like, oh, I've been waiting for this ring forever and it's not coming, or you've run the Headless Horseman for 8 years and haven't gotten the mount, Yeah. Never did get that damn mount, by the way.
I tried so many else.
I got the Phoenix mount from Kael'thas. I got that right away.
Good one. Nice.
But but there was like that reputation grind for me, and doing dailies just to grind out doing dailies was just not anything I really enjoyed. I loved questing. I really did. And I would really kind of get into the whole new expansion, get the storyline and read all the quests and go through the whole process because I really like the story. But rep grinds, anytime I had to do a rep grind for like raiding or, even like to do crafting stuff, I'm like, just kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not my thing.
What was your favorite raid tier, if you had to pick one?
Karazhan was
wow. That's a really good one.
It was amazing because Karazhan was my first ever raid experience, and
that's awesome.
And it was like I used to raid on a team where we would start at like 9:00 Central because I had a raid leader that lived in Pacific time, so we'd start at 9 p.m. Central and play until 2 in the morning.
Wow,
and
hardcore.
I have to be at work at 7 in the morning, and we do it like twice a week, and I was just like. I remember going to work just a zombie every single day for doing that, but it was so much fun. And like the opera event was one of my favorites. I will never in my life forget the flame wreath do not move alert flashing in my face. Like flame wreath, do not move. And
oh my God. What was that? Deadly boss mods or something?
Yeah. DBM was the thing that just like will basically just and but we just had, and I think the second most would be probably Next Ramus. Next Ramus, when they did it again for, oh gosh, what was that expansion that it was? Probably Lich King, I think. Lich King.
It was.
And the Heigen dance that you had to do in that one, where you had to run when the floor was like lava in the blocks and stuff like that. I had a raid team member who was a stoner who would
There's always that one guy.
Yeah, it was like the one dude who would smoke a ball before we would go in, and then he'd play the Benny Hill theme through voice chat, like Ventrilo. So he'd be running, and all of a sudden it would go out of nowhere, going dun 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 dun. We're like laughing and trying to run
to like do this dance at the same time. I heard about the dance.
Always remember that.
I heard about the dance because it's so famous, but my first raid was ICC, so I came in just like a little bit after. It was also a good first raid to have, but I wish I would have had that Karazhan.
Syndragosa was like the hardest fight in that, besides Lich King. Like you just did Syndragosa and you were like, this is so stupid.
I would always stand in the breath. I would always, every time.
Stand in the bad shit.
Yeah.
And, yeah, exactly.
Did you see the World of Warcraft movie?
Yeah, I actually made an event here in Minnesota for people to come and watch the Warcraft movie where we rented a theater.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
To do like that is so freaking nerdy, isn't it?
It's the best.
We had like 50 people that came to Minnesota for the weekend, and it was like 95 degrees here, which is very not normal for this weather. And we wound up going to see the movie, and then they tried to go to an amusement park event, like had people go over there. It was so hot that we had to leave early because we were just dying. All of us were dying. But yeah, watch the Warcraft movie with a whole bunch of nerds, and it was so fun.
Awesome.
It was fantastic.
What did you think of the movie?
I loved it. I thought it was amazing, and we just I think it was because we were so into everything, if I weren't surrounded by all of my friends and all the people that I really enjoyed, would I have loved it as much? Maybe not, but but it was more about the experience of like being with these people who I loved very much. So that was pretty cool.
Have you heard there's rumors of Warcraft 2? You might do.
I have. I follow Duncan on Twitter, and he kind of puts little hints here or there. And
is he going to be involved for the next one too?
I have no idea. I would hope so. I mean,
me too.
It was really cool to have him do the first one. So, but yeah, I would watch it for sure.
Hopefully it goes there. So, Heroes of the Storm. After a bunch of years of doing World of Warcraft content, you got into Heroes of the Storm. How'd you get in? How'd you jump? Because for me, playing World of Warcraft for so many years, I jumped into Heroes of the Storm, and I was terrible. I was so bad at the game for a while. Was it hard for you to adjust, or how'd you get in?
My first experience with Heroes of the Storm was at BlizzCon was it 2014, 2015? The year that they did the exhibition on BlizzCon stage for, so they had a couple teams that were on there, and I was like, what is this? And so I wound up wandering over to the stage and sat down and I just watched the gameplay. And I was like, this is awesome. But this is my first experience with esports. This was my first like understanding of like watching a competitive stage. And I'm like, it was like a drug that got injected into my veins. It was like, I want more of this. I wanted, and so I got home and I just started watching as many of those broadcasts as I could catch from all of the people who were doing these at-home broadcasts. So it was like Solid Jake and Kubi and all of these guys who were like out there doing these at-home broadcasts of like these pickup events. So it was like, and I'm trying to understand who the teams are. It's like there's Navi and there's Team Liquid and there's, you know, all of these people. Cloud9 all of a sudden comes out of nowhere, and I got obsessed. I was just like, I was totally and utterly obsessed with Heroes of the Storm esports. And I wasn't even really playing the game, but I was just really just into the competition. And then eventually I got into the beta and I started to play and, you know, in getting a sense, but I had no idea what I was doing because I'd never played a MOBA. I had no idea what I was doing. And eventually some of my friends started to play it and we just had a blast, but it was esports that landed my attention. And then I was just like locked in. I followed the esports scene from all of it. And, you know, watched all of like the ones that were like being made by the community, the stuff. And then like, however it was formatted, I can't remember how it ended up at BlizzCon in 2015 and how there was nobody from Asia who came over because they couldn't be here to compete. So it was like Cloud9 versus Tempo Storm. And it was just like, I sat at that stage and I was there the entire time. I was like, I am not leaving. And there was a 3-hour delay because of like issues with the servers and the LAN connections. And I sat there that whole time. I have pictures of me just sitting there like, I am not moving. I have a really good seat. And it led to me wanting to do stuff related to Heroes of the Storm, but I didn't feel very confident. You know, I was an advice podcaster. I'd done some news stuff related to gaming, but I really didn't feel like I had a lot of clout to be able to do like news reporting for Heroes. And so I kind of like dipped my toe in the water certain times with the Convert to Raid. Sometimes they'd have me on to talk about some of those certain things, but it wasn't until I actually decided that I was just gonna just like bite the bullet and make my own show for Heroes that is really when I got into doing that content, and it just spiraled from there.
Who's your favorite hero?
To play is Stukov. I'm a healer main for sure. To watch, Kel'Thuzad.
Oh, that's a good one.
I've been begging my entire, every time we're on broadcast for CCL, I'm like, is someone going to pick Kel'Thuzad, please? At some point in this season, someone going to pick it? Nobody did. You know, and I didn't I was going to start putting it into the org Discord that we're in to be like, yo,
bonus
can you
points
make
for...
your commissioner happy at some point? But I know that he's not in a position to be competitive, but it's so much fun to watch. And so, yeah, one of these days I'll get my wish.
He's a ton of fun to watch. Like,
yeah,
it's insane. Like most heroes, you know, it's, you know, predictable damage, and then Kel'Thuzad could just be like, team wipe, boom.
He got stacks, and then he's just like, boom.
Annihilation. So you got into Heroes of the Storm. It was this big like infatuation right off the bat. And then how did you go from kind of, you know, nervously kind of reporting on the news once in a while to being involved with Heroes Hearth, you know, one of the premier organizations in Heroes of the Storm?
It's a great story, actually. So I was doing the things that I was really enjoying about, you know, just being obsessed with everything. I have pictures of myself like sitting in front of my computer watching Heroes and watching all of these people who are now like my coworkers, Gillyweed and Dreadnought, and, you know, people that are like, that I watched for years. McIntyre and Casanova and, you know, these guys who are just doing the thing. I was asked to consult with there was a new team that was coming up from like the open division from Ferociously Steph. She used to be known as Oddish, from Heroes of the Dorm. She wanted to put together a women's open division team for HGC to help compete, to help forward the female esports scene. And she asked me to consult with her, and I did. And at the time, the team had brought on Lakefu, was one of the players on this team called Femme Ferocity. And Lakefu she had gotten a request from Workhorse from Heroes Hearth to be considered to be a partner for Heroes Hearth. And she didn't know him, she didn't feel comfortable, and she asked Steph and I if we would mind talking with her to this guy Workhorse, who I had never met before. And all I knew is that he was the owner of the HGC team, and he had some kind of a thing going on where he was starting to build some content on their Twitch channel. So we did this meeting, and Steph had not slept well the night before. And so we got into this meeting, and she was just unfocused and having a tough time. And I was like, I felt really bad. I was like, I hope that we didn't cause any problems for Lakefu for this partnership. And so I had sent him a message afterwards. I'm like, hey, I apologize if we didn't give you the right impression. I'm sorry. He's like, oh, no, it's good. It's good. It's nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. And so I had a moment and this happens to me a lot, actually, is that I had been thinking a lot about making my own show for Heroes of the Storm, but I didn't know what to do. And there was this voice in my head that just kept saying, you need to ask Workhorse for a meeting. You need to ask him for a meeting, and you need to pitch him your idea. Because they don't have a show on Heroes Hearth, and you could do that for him. And it was this constant narrative in my head. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. So I was like, fine. I sent him a DM, and I'm like, hey, would you be willing to sit down with me for half an hour? And this is the idea that I have, and I'd like to talk to you about it. And he was like, yeah, that'd be great. And we wound up talking for 4 hours. Ian and I are just like, we just realized that we were supposed to meet each other. Like, it was one of those moments where you run across someone and you realize that this is the person that you're supposed to be friends with for the rest of your life. And it was instant. He was like, yes, I love your idea. Let's do it. He helped me develop the show in the way that it would work for Heroes Hearth. We came up with ideas together, and then we went. And it was very clear, like, we just became friends, like, super fast. And it was very clear that I could bring some, knowledge and understanding of things from my own experiences, from like working with Convert to Raid and doing all of this stuff for guild leading and then podcasting to help. So I was helping the Heroes Hearth org and the team for just kind of like operations types of things, questions and things like, how do we do this? And how do we do this? And it was really cool. And it never stopped. It never stopped.
So there was a show by Heroes Hearth, Heroes of the Storm show?
Yes, it was called Heroes News with Jules Scott. And
How did I not know about this?
It was, it was hard because no one really knew me in the Heroes scene.
Okay.
And so what I would do is I would report about the HGC news and also any patch news. And then I would do an interview with a member of the community. So I interviewed like 24 different people, I think, before the show ended. And I was interviewing like all of the content creators and some of the players and some of, I interviewed Nolan Jones from Roll20 because he was one of the team owners. Crowan and Leon Black and Bethany Lashes, Jay Howe, Caldor, Trixler, people like that is what I would do to do these interviews. And that was kind of my entry into the Heroes of the Storm scene because no one knew who I was. No one had a sense of
There's a lot of crossover between World of Warcraft and Heroes of the Storm, though. I mean,
there really wasn't a lot that, like, people didn't know who they hadn't known Jules Scott from Tauren Think Tank in the hero scene. So I had to pretty much introduce myself, as, hey, I've been an experienced podcaster. You just probably have never heard of me. So
That's so crazy. I'm so mad. I should have found that show. Every week I would
still
watch.
out there.
Okay,
It's
so I'll
still
check
out
it
there.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still out there. I think we did 20, 25, 26 episodes, 28, somewhere in there. It ended, I had to end it after HGC ended because to be frank, I was doing these interviews of people like to show their inspiration and how they had gotten to where they were today. And it was incredibly depressing to try to do interviews with people who had all lost their roles in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, that's hard. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so I decided to end the show because there just wasn't, there was no news about the game. There was no competitive scene. So I've had some people who have asked me, would you bring it back? And, my unfortunate answer is just like, I'm too busy. I can't, because podcasting is a lot of work. You guys know, I mean, it's just, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And, as much as I would like to do more of it, it's just, I have a pretty large amount of responsibilities just running the league. So yeah, but that's how it all kind of came together for Heroes Hearth. And then, Heroes Hearth was once HGC ended, the plan was to try to make content to keep the competitive scene alive the way we could, by doing things called Fight Night. And Fight Night was kind of the fun every 2 weeks for the teams that were still out there from Open Division and some of the old HGC teams casted by Haloran and Jhow. Very much more casual, like they could swear, they drank on the show and got drunk. It was like a lot more like not esports suit and tie stuff. Yeah.
So that's good. So you came on board with Heroes Hearth. What was it like? So there's this transition period where Heroes of the HGC was down. You're with this new organization that's doing Heroes of the Storm content, and you're making content. Was it hard at that period of time? Were you kind of going uphill?
It was really. We were just trying to figure out what we were going to do. Ian Workhorse had created this group of partners that were making content on the Heroes Hearth channel, and his vision was like every week these guys would come onto the channel and just like do a stream on Heroes Hearth to promote, and sometimes they play together and sometimes they, but it was like a crew of people who were partners on there. So it was like Kai Berries and Alex Dids and Kagiri, and just people who were just like in the scene playing together. In addition, they wound up having the fight nights that were going on, and was like, well, what is our goal? What are we trying to accomplish? And we were like, well, we're trying to keep Heroes of the Storm top of mind for people. So then the concept was to build Heroes Wednesdays, which was like a back-to-back series of gaming like groups of people who would play Heroes of the Storm together and kind of like built on their personalities. And so Heroes Wednesday started at like noon and went to like after to like fight night. Like it was like the cap, at the end. So there would be just like this 12 hours of Heroes of the Storm.
Wow.
And it went really well for a number of, like a while. It went really well. But during that time, so we had hired someone to do like the producing of the show. The person who was like the live director, running the cameras, getting everybody in the place and observing the game. And unfortunately, that person wasn't able to continue after about 3 months because it was, it was it was like every Friday night at that time, and it was tough on their schedule. And so like we ran out of we didn't have a director for this show after about 3 months of doing it. And I had another one of those moments where it was like, Jules, say something. Jules, say something. Say something. And so I did. I went, they're like, what are we going to do? We don't have a director. And I said, well, what if I did it? And they were like, whoa, that's amazing. And Ian calls me, like he sings to me all the time when we get into Discord. He always sings to me, do you ever know that you're my hero? Like he sings that to me all the time because I've done that multiple times. And so I learned how to direct an esports broadcast, and I started doing that for all of the fight nights that we were doing for the next 6 months. And then Heroes Hearth was given an offer for purchase by what is now Wisdom Gaming Group. I was not working for Ian. Like I wasn't, I was a consultant or like a contractor. So I'd get a small stipend every month, but I was working full time doing just a regular 9 to 5 job that I hated. And he said, Jules, they want to buy me, and I want you to be my first hire. And I want you to live direct all the shows that we're about to do. And I was like, okay, let's go.
That's so awesome. Wow.
So that's how I came into Wisdom, and that's how I became hired by Wisdom and Heroes Hearth. Yeah.
So is that like the moment when Wisdom Media came in and bought Heroes Hearth? Was that the moment where you're like, okay, this is going to work, like we made it? Or how'd you feel?
I mean, it was a cool feeling. Like they bought Heroes Hearth based on the concept of what we were able to achieve at that point. Mm-hmm. And it was like very unsure of like where we were going to go from that point. It's like, okay, well, we're going to figure it out. We're going to make content. We're going to do the things that we know how to do, and it'll come together. And so at that point, I was directing all of the shows that we were doing, which weren't very many, but it was around that time that TFT, Teamfight Tactics, came out, and we felt like there was an opportunity to do what we do for Heroes of the Storm in a game like Teamfight Tactics, which wasn't like, it had a very dedicated community, but it had no esports scene, and it didn't have much going on. Like, what could we do? So we figured out the technology, because this game has no observer client. How do you do an esports event and show everybody's perspective?
We
figured out it's tough. So we had to figure out the technology and the way to do a stream, which was like cobbling pipe cleaners together. It was really tough. But we figured it out and we did it. And then it eventually turned into a second brand called Giant Slayer, which is now the wing of the Riot Games side of Wisdom. And but it wasn't until we really got into things, we realized that we could do the work that we were doing for other people. So for the developer, something called white label work, which is basically like you're helping this developer or this company do their broadcast for them. And that's what we do now. We do a lot of that for, we've done it for Riot Games, for a number of opportunities there, with TFT and Legends of Runeterra. We just recently announced that there's going to be one for League of Legends and their tier 1 competitions. And that is what Wisdom Media is now become. And we just did one for Eternal Return Black Survival for Nimble Neuron just yesterday. We did it on their channel, but the event was run by us.
That's massive. That's such a big shift from, the smaller Heroes of the Storm events. Was it only like 2 years ago? Not even a year and a half.
2019 was when we did our first fight night. In 2019, we did the fight nights for almost a year and a half. And then we started doing what we call celebrity fight nights, where we would take the streamers and battle them against each other, which then turned into the first iteration of CCL, the Celebrity Clash League, where we built 4 different teams of celebrity streamers and had them do a tournament style for 4 weeks. And that was, so we did 2 seasons of that. I directed one of them, and it was really cool to kind of see the first, and then Ian was sneaking in some notes to me and May, June's going, I have this idea about what to do with the hero stuff. And I'm like, what? You're insane. You want what? You want a league? You want orgs? What? Are you crazy? and that's how it started.
That's so crazy, because all of this you're describing is what, a year ago? It happened all so fast and so explosively. I remember the Celebrity Clash League. I was kind of unhappy, like a lot of people, when HCC went down, and I kind of checked out of a lot of Blizzard stuff until I started hearing Celebrity Clash League, and I was like, something's going on. Here's the Storm is and that was the thing that was oh, I'm gonna pay attention again, and that was not that long ago.
That was January. The first one was in February of 2020. No. that's not right. The first one was like, somewhere in like 2019.
Okay.
Second one was 2020. We did the second season then. Gosh, I'm like, my brain is like blanking now. And because it really did go very fast. No, it was 2019 into 2020. Here's the I just remember what it was. We had done some of those celebrity like showdowns, celebrity fight nights. And I'd gone to BlizzCon in 2019 and I ran into Trixler. And Trick had said to me, Jules, I love when we do those fight nights. It makes me so excited to play Heroes of the Storm. I would do that for free. I would, he was so stoked about it. And I was heading over to meet Ian and our crew to go down to the Heroes area in the lower level. They made that whole classic section where Heroes was in 2019. And we're going down the escalator and I'm turned around talking to Ian as he's behind me in the escalator. And I said, there's something here, because we were building a tournament format for TFT. And I said, what if we applied the tournament format to celebrity fight night to do like a league? And that's how CCL version 1 was born, on that escalator.
Wow. Just like on an escalator. Just like, wait a second.
Right. And and then we came back and we did the first version in January, or somewhere in January, and then we did the second version in March. And then the new idea for this, like the new CCL, was born in June.
Wow. So maybe I should say, just in case, but most people watching probably know what CCL is, but in case you don't, CCL is like the premier, like, Heroes of the Storm league, like big production, big prize pools, big names competing in it. And if you don't know what it is, you messed up. But your chance to redeem yourself is youtube.com/heroeshearth, twitch.tv/heroeshearth. Check it out. Really awesome league. And Chili Mountain, our org, is part of it. We're one of the orgs competing in there. Yeah. Is there anything now you can tell us about season 2? I know the details were kind of secret before, but maybe you could talk more about it now.
Yeah, they're out now. We got everything out. So, so season 2 has been announced. We are going to continue the path that we were in season 1, where there will still be 8 orgs that are competing, and players from any region are a part of CCL. We're sticking with it. The big thing that is coming for this season is that all of the orgs are going to need to shake up their rosters a little bit. We're requiring that all of the orgs have a maximum of 4 out of their 6 players that they can protect, and 2 of those players must be released to the free agent pool. They may option to release either 3 or all 6 players, but they must release at least 2 of them. We want to do and then we'll do a redraft for the before we start the season, so that we have a couple of new faces and some of those, at least 2, maybe more. We'll find out tomorrow how many spots are open. And the reason why we're doing this is because there's 2 reasons. Number 1, it's very important to my team and I that we've created a path to pro for CCL. It's a small league. It's not, we're not massive. There's only 48 spots for players available, but there needs to be an opportunity for people to be able to aspire to get into the league during the season, before the season starts. Otherwise, if you don't have the ability to try to compete, then why would you want to ever try to compete and get better and be out there grinding it out to try to compete at the highest level? The second reason that we're doing this is for team parity. We want the teams to have. I'm not a fan of dynasties. If I'm completely frank, I don't like dynasties, and I want the opportunity for each of our orgs to have the opportunity to improve or fight for their dominance. And so, and we all saw with just even 2 players being swapped around in the Simplicity roster, they went from 6th place to winning the whole damn thing.
That was a big difference.
Yeah. And so, just even a minor shift around with 2 roles made that much of a difference for that team to improve. Obviously, there is some I don't know, controversy. People have differing opinions about that move that we're making. But I really feel like it is something that is good for the health and the growth of this league. So that's the big thing that's going to happen. We'll have another draft in April for the spots that are open. We'll also have another free agency exhibition season, a bit different this time. Instead of us picking the teams that will compete in exhibition, there will be 2 open tournaments that will be run by us for people who are inside the free agent pool. And they will be creating their own teams to compete in that open tournament system so that they can have a little bit more control over their own destiny of who they get to play with, and finding a group to compete with. But it is not required. They don't need to compete in that tournament to have the option of being drafted.
Okay. So that's season 2. Season 1 was super awesome, very successful, blew everyone's expectations away. Season 2 is looking really amazing. Do you have any aspirations, do you want CCL playoffs to be at BlizzCon or Madison Square Garden so I can just drive over there? That'd be really nice.
I would be I was gonna say I'd be stupid if I did not have a 5-year plan. So I will tell you, we absolutely have a 5-year plan. Probably even further than that. We can't talk about specifics related to that because I can only say, yes, we've gotten a license to do season 2. But it is our dream to compete on LAN. It is our dream to have everyone in the same space and competing together. It is our dream to grow this league beyond 8 teams. So there are lots of things that we want to do to continue doing this in a way that is sustainable and great for the scene. And that's the things that, I want it all. I want to be hanging out with players from all around the world in one space, competing together for, how about $100,000 prize pool? Well, do you think we could do that?
Yes.
You think we could get there? Maybe we got $1 million prize pool someday for CCL. It would just, the sky's the limit when it comes down to what we want to dream and try to aspire to do. But the approach will always be very measured and very, we're not going to try to grow so fast that we can't keep up with what we're trying to grow. And that's something that's very important to this group is and I know there are people who are like, you should be 15 teams by now. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Let's slow down a little bit because there's money that has to go into, because, all of the teams are getting stipends through us. As an org system, our org owners are not putting in money to make sure their players are paid their salary. We are paying that. And so that in itself is that's a lot of money. So we need to make sure we don't try to spend more money than we have.
Especially in the recent, I don't want to say shadow, but with seeing HGC go down because it overextended itself and because it tried to scale too quickly, compared to viewership and compared to where everything was, and then collapsed. If CCL tried, made those same mistakes, it would be so bad for the scene. So it's good it makes a lot of sense to just move as progress is made.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that maybe there's going to be some people who think we're not moving as fast as we could, or why aren't you doing more? And the thing about it is we're doing as much as we are capable to make the great product that we saw in season 1, and sometimes those changes take time. One of the things that we have a struggle with right now is the fact that we're all still broadcasting from home. We don't have the ability to go into studio because of the pandemic, but that is something that we aspire to and are planning towards, which could mean that we have opportunities to do things like instant replays, which people want so much.
Yeah, that'd be a nice touch.
It'd be great. We would love to have it. It's just that we have to grow in the, it's because it looks so good. People are comparing it to what they see on the level of LCS and things like that. And it's we very flattered, but we don't have the technology that those that full-on studio has that they're just,
Yeah.
you know, that
They've
they're
been
just
doing
doing
that
at
for
home.
8 years or something now.
Exactly.
They've been spending so much
We've been
time.
doing this for 6 months.
Yeah. That's not a fair comparison. Couple more years. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sid.
So you mentioned really getting into Heroes of the Storm at this LAN, like in-person event.
Yeah.
So, and kind of looking up to people who are your coworkers now, like Gillyweed and such. So has there been anybody that you've been like starstruck by to like have working with, or someone that you like communicate regularly that you're kind of like, I used to like look up to this person or see them on my TV, and now it's like they're a DM away or they won't stop DMing me, you know?
It happens all the time. Like, you know, Grubby is a great example. Grubby is now a partner for Heroes Hearth and Wisdom, and he has been for the last year. And I have been kind of designated as his main contact for everything, even before he started working for CCL. And so I have a direct line to him that no one else has, and it's just like we'll just have conversation. I'm like, I'm freaking talking to Grubby like this. It's just like, it's kind of weird. And you know, being friends and becoming friends. You know, Doa was the same way. Where like, no, Doa is I'm getting DMs from him, and you know, I've had moments where I've talked to friends who have been around with me in my gaming space forever, and I'm like, what is my life right now? You know, what is my life right now? Where I'm having DM conversations with Frodan, and you know, and just very cool people that I have watched on stage. You know, I have a picture with me and Gillyweed and Anna Prosser back in 2015, and I showed it to her the other day because Gilly and I are, you know, not only coworkers but we're friends, and I'm like, look at this, you didn't even know who I was back then. Like, and you know, so it feels odd sometimes when I have those moments where I'm just like, what is my life? But it is, you know, it's my life now, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's so cool. That's definitely something I felt, probably like 1/100th of the scale of you, but definitely something I felt too, where it's just like talking to people who have like, okay, I've like seen you on TV all the time, like especially Grubby, like Grubby in the scene. That's somebody I've like known his name since I'm like 12 or something.
Yeah,
Warcraft
I mean,
3.
because he's been around that long and he's been competing that long, and you know, the storied history of someone, and you know, sometimes you have to remember, like, these are just people, just like you and me. They're just people, and the best ones are the people who are just like, yeah, I'm just a regular Joe. It's just me. And you know, but it's wild, and it's fun. It's just fun.
So, you changed topics a little bit. You started a new podcast. You couldn't shake the itch. The personal experience podcast. Yes. What inspired this one?
So I hadn't been really doing a show for several months when it came down to the time where the personal experience podcast came around. Yeah, I'm probably going to talk about something a little uncomfortable, but it led into this.
Yeah, that's okay.
So back, I had ended Tauren Think Tank. I wasn't doing any other really many shows, and I was okay with that. I wasn't feeling a big pull on it, and really feeling like I was missing things until about June of this year. In June, there was, if you guys remember, back in June, there was a very large reckoning that happened in the Twitch and content creator community regarding sexual harassment and people being, stories finally being told of people who are really just shitty humans. And I found out that my co-host Mark Honan was one of them, and that was really devastating for me because I didn't know. I heard terrible stories from women who had been victimized by him, and I got a lot of people who were messaging me and saying, "We miss you. We wish that you were back. we wish that we could hear your voice right now. And I was just like, oh God, I'm not ready. Oh God, I'm not ready. It really kind of took my legs out from under me to digest everything that was around that, because it was very difficult to learn that. And around July 4th of last year, there was a tweet that I had seen on my feed that had gone viral. And it was a basketball coach from a school in Texas, and a woman who said the thing that COVID and racism have in common is that people don't understand it until they have experienced it, or don't think it exists until they have experienced it. And it really stuck with me. Like, that whole thing just like echoed in my brain. And I was like, oh man, it's probably time for me to start doing some more work like this to help people understand experiences about other people. Because a lot of them don't understand what it's like to live with certain experiences if they've never lived it themselves. And maybe I can do that. And so, a couple weeks later, the Personal Experience Podcast was born. And it's been an awesome experience. I will fully admit I have been off since like November, when CCL really kicked off, because I did not expect the amount. I mean, CCL didn't really exist in my brain when I made this podcast, and I certainly wasn't in charge of CCL when I started making this podcast. So I had no idea the amount of work that I was going to be under trying to just process. And so I did my last show of the recent season back in November, and I'm still kind of finding the way of when I'm going to get back to doing it again. But I've done some really amazing episodes, talking to people, talking about bipolar disorder, racism, experiences with COVID, anti-Semitism, being a sex worker, all of these things that I haven't experienced myself. So it was like, it was really it's been a cool project, and I really would love to get back to it when I have the ability to focus on it and really give it all my all again.
Wow. Okay, that sounds really awesome. That sounds like probably something people will benefit from a lot in COVID times. It's like a hard time right now for a lot of people. That's cool.
There's a bunch of episodes out now. You can take a look. It's it's evergreen content, so it's not something that's very timely. Like, you have to listen to it, or it's kind of old news, which is what I really wanted to do with that.
Yeah, where can people can find it? Like, whatever, Spotify, Personal Experience Podcast.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell is wrong with Spotify and its search function, but you literally have to search Personal Experience Podcast with Jules Scott to get it. It's Spotify. Difficult. I have it linked on my Twitter account as well. Like, there's a link to it, so you can get to it there. But yeah, it's hard to find it. It's I don't know why it's been difficult. I've tried to make it a little bit better, but
yeah. Well, that's sorry, go ahead, Sid.
So with all the podcasts that you've been involved with, would you classify yourself as an extrovert?
No. Hell no. I'm actually a really big introvert. And it's funny because, like, I'm very comfortable here in front of a microphone in my house with my cat in front of my camera talking to you two or anybody. And so you would think that I'm, like, kind of the life of the party when I'm out there and doing the thing. And it's so not true. Like, if you sit down with me in a group setting, I'm usually one of the more quieter people, unless there's like a focus on me, like people really want to hear me talk. But, I'm not the person who's out there clamoring I'll usually be sitting listening to everybody else talk, which is really funny. But I get in like in a con setting, and I need to take breaks from the whole like process of it. I love cons. They're the best. But I will also have to go and be like, I need like an hour back in the hotel room for just quiet so that I can recharge. And then by the time I get home, I'm like, nah, we're taking a week off or something. It drains me a lot. I can't really stream. It's very difficult for me to stream. I've tried to be a streamer in the past, and it's just too much for me. And I just get drained, and I can't function very well. I've made like 2 or 3 attempts at being a streamer like on a regular schedule, and it's like, nope, can't do it. So
Yeah.
And so I used to do my shows. I would do them as a live stream recording for most of them. Like if I had a co-host, and we would do them as a live stream, which was usually enough, pretty easy for me. It's like an hour and a half. I can handle that. But I see people who do 5-6 hour streams, and I'm like, what superpower do you have? Because I do not have it.
Yeah. So with all these podcasts under your belt, and you're like creating content, what do you like to listen to? Like even like related to gaming, not related to gaming, like what's on your subscribe list?
So on my podcasts, I listen to a bunch of different stuff. I actually really enjoy so one of my favorite people is Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium. I love listening. She's got this new show that I listen to all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love the show Film Sack from the Frog Pants Studios.
I love that one.
I've been a fan for years of that show. Even if I probably haven't seen half the movies, but I still love it. And I used to listen to TMS, the morning stream from Frog Pants Studios, quite often. I just don't have time to do that anymore. When I was commuting, I would listen all the time. And then I'll listen to like one-off things that may have a kind of a fun thing. But lately I've been into music and like watching DJ streamers. That's my favorite thing right now, is to like watch. There's a certain number of like DJ streamers, and I learn all the music that, different genres of music that they're playing. And sometimes it's chill, sometimes it's house and techno, sometimes it's like Afro house. And I'm just like, this is great. I love this. I am one of those people that has to have sound around me all the time. It has to be some kind of background, something. So when I'm working during the day, I have Spotify in my ears the entire day. During meetings, like anytime I'm meeting with you guys, there's music in my ears. It's not right now, but because I'm talking a lot, but if I'm just sitting in meetings, I'm listening to music the whole time.
Yeah. Very cool.
Okay. All right. So we pretty much reached our hour. Jules, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you and your amazing esports work and podcasts and all the different things?
Well, again, thank you guys so much for giving me a place to talk about myself for an hour.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
It's been awesome. So you can find me. My main kind of source is social media on Twitter. Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all at Jules RPG. I have an Etsy store, which is linked to that as well. That's probably one of my other main hobbies, is making chainmail and resin jewelry. There's a bunch of pictures that are about to go up today on some stuff that I did for the weekend. So that's kind of like my creative outlet for things you'll see, like things that I make. And that's my content creation right now, because
cool.
CCL and everything that we're doing is so much a part of my life that I just need to channel the energy into physical creation instead of mental creation, I guess is the way to put it. So
audio.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's that's best places to find me.
Awesome. And then Sid, where can everybody find you?
I am on pretty much all social media platforms. It's going to be at It's Me Sidkitten. I post almost daily on all of them. So at It's Me Sidkitten, you can find me.
Okay, and then I'm at Chillrogg, LLG, Instagram, Twitter. I just started a TikTok, and I'm locked out of Chillrogg, so I'm Chillrogg 2 on TikTok.
Oh, no.
My OCD is going insane from that.
Yeah, I would too.
Every platform except for TikTok, I'm Chillrogg.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so catch me there. Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you guys next week, same time. YouTube.com/ChiliMountain, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.